This is Movie Night with the Boys.
Swagatam. We are Movie Night with the Boys, and we're a movie podcast. We also cover TV shows and video games. My name is Zach,
And I'm John.
and today we're going to talk about Obi Wan Kenobi, Episode 5, Miss Marvel, Episode 1 and 2, and to finish it off, we'll do a little Episode 5 of The Boys, right? So, with that being said, take it away, John.
Alrighty. So, episode 5 of Obi Wan Kenobi, aptly titled Part 5. So, this episode picks up back in Coruscant 13 years prior when Anakin was training with Obi Wan. You could see that Anakin's getting frustrated. He's getting aggressive. You already get those Vader tones from him that you're kind of starting to see again now. And, you know, he's Anakin.
Do you recognize the place where they're training?
Yeah, isn't it the council room?
No.
But it's out Coruscant.
It's where the younglings were training.
Oh yeah. When they but it was the reason I didn't recognize it because it's obviously day versus nighttime.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's that same area. And did you recognize Anakin's clothes?
Yeah, those were his episode 2 clothes.
Yeah. So
yep.
that
along with the tail
with the little ponytail. Yeah.
Yep.
One thing I do have to say though is why did they not de-age his face?
That is something that I will talk about again later, but it definitely didn't make sense. So we get back to the current times. Vader is now tracking Kenobi because of the tracker that Reva put on Lola. And she has been given the title of Grand Inquisitor, which she clearly had wanted for a while now based on her actions. So they arrive at the facility where and this is a quick little shout back to our last episode of episode 4. You thought Roken, is it Roken?
Yeah.
Yeah, you thought he was one of the guys flying the ships. Turns out he wasn't.
No. It wasn't just me. You said the same thing. Don't put that on me.
We're both guilty.
Don't put that on me.
We're both guilty of it. We both thought he was on the ship. He was not.
No, I know because I seen him. He's still alive, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Oops.
But I mean, you wouldn't have. I don't think you would have paid an actor like him to do that, role, if you were gonna literally die 20 minutes later.
Yeah, with less than 15 lines total.
Right. So
yeah, that's fair. So as the Empire is showing up to basically siege the path's resting place at the moment, Lola goes up into the vents and deactivates the electronic hydraulic door that keeps that actually would allow them out, but it also keeps the Empire out from above as well. So I think it was kind of a foolish move on their part. Because they could have just attacked them as they flew out, if you think about it.
the Empire, yeah.
Yeah. But, so they get locked in.
You should I would say we should also mention that every so often they're doing flashbacks of like Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting still. Like
that. It was kind of cool actually that they did that, because despite the shortcomings of Hayden Christensen looking like a 39-year-old, 20-year-old, he actually seemed pretty fluid in those movements despite his aggression. So he didn't lose a step.
He's still got the moves. And I want to point out something, but when they're fighting, right? You've seen Anakin. Anakin does this like downwards chopping motion with a sword all the time.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't notice this ever, like when I was watching Clone Wars and even, whatever else he's in, right? But that is exactly what Luke does to him when he cuts off Vader's hand. right? Luke is sitting there doing the same thing, beating down Vader, and then he chops off Vader's hand,
Mhm.
right? So
Good. Feel the hate flow through you. Yes.
yeah,
Join the dark side.
it's
You know.
pretty ironic, but yeah,
Yeah.
continue on,
Ironic.
continue on.
Um.
Oh,
So
and the little robot, like when he flies in, it's kind of mirroring when the Mando had to send Grogu in to fix the wires,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
that's a good little reflection.
yep.
So after their little exchange and the door gets locked, um, basically Kenobi takes over as the general again, and he says, "All right, we need to fortify our defenses. We need to make sure that we can stand our ground. If they can't get to us, we might be able to get out of here if we can get that door open." So he asks Roken. Roken says it's going to take 4 hours. He says, "You got one," and they go and they start to fortify the walls and the doors, try to make sure that no one can get to them. And then we get the scene of the stormtroopers showing up with Riva leading the whole team,
You
and
know, do you know what the black ones are?
those are the officers, right?
Nope.
Those aren't the mech
Those-
droid. They're not the
Nope. Those are purge troopers.
purge troopers.
Yeah, they basically the underlings of the Inquisitors,
Huh.
right? Yeah, they're also from Fallen Order.
So yeah, they show up and they bust out this big ass cannon that's gonna they're hoping is gonna blow the door open. It doesn't seem to be working, but they keep trying. Um, and Kenobi and a group of the other rebels are at the door waiting for them. And he comes up with this plan to try to buy themselves some time. And he walks up to the door and calls Riva to him to negotiate.
I want to
And
point out
her, oh, go ahead,
something that
sorry.
you did miss. So when Obi-Wan was in the hangar, right? He came across a box of lightsabers and a robe,
That's right. I did forget that.
right? And everybody believes that one of those lightsabers in the box is Quinlan Voss's, right? Because realistically, a Jedi, if you're in hiding, like just like Obi-Wan, he hid his in the desert, you wouldn't be walking around with a lightsaber. That's kind of the stupidest thing, right?
Yeah,
So I would assume
that makes
that
sense.
more often than not, those lightsabers, a couple of those Jedis might be dead, and a couple of them might still be alive. So I just wanted to point out that yeah, one of those lightsabers matches Quinlan Voss's, and that's one of the cool things I like about Star Wars is you can literally like like lightsaber is different. You know what I mean?
So the rebels are waiting in the hangar, and as I was about to say,
Oh,
um,
I have one more Easter egg that I forgot to point out.
go for it.
So, you know, when Tala she goes and she's like talking to Obi-Wan, right? They're actually in that same room that Obi-Wan woke up in the back to tank. That's the back to tank room.
Okay.
And but the Easter egg I want to mention is Riva pulls out her holster and she shows there's 14 marks on her
Yep.
holster. And in her story, she said word for word, 14 people died that day.
Oh shit.
Sh- So she walks around with that etched on her belt or
Hmm.
on her in her holster as a like you know what I mean as kind of a reminder.
So yeah, the rebels and Ben are in the hangar. Well, they're in the little room outside the hangar. They and in order to stall, Ben says that he wants to try to talk and negotiate with Riva. So she walks up to the door and they start communicating. And he finally figures out what we have suspected since episode one or episode three, depending on how you look at it. Um, that she was one of the younglings that was in the first episode that happened on Coruscant.
Well, yeah, they show us her
Yeah.
flashback. Yeah,
They give us the whole her perspective thing, and you see Hayden Christensen walking in, and he's getting, he's slicing little
he's
younglings down.
40 years old.
Yeah. The hood
Um,
didn't save you, bruh.
I want to point out one Easter egg here. It's one of the three kids that she was with. Like, remember, like Anakin was striking them all down.
Yep.
One of those kids is one of those kids that we seen in the trophy room. One of those younglings. Like
No,
that
no
was.
shit.
It was the same. Yeah, the same
Huh.
kid.
I
Yeah,
definitely wouldn't have caught that.
yeah.
Brutal.
Which doesn't really make sense to me. But at the same time,
Maybe it was his first
it
trophy.
no, 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 because what I was like. So just jumping ahead a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Riva claims that she hides amongst the dead bodies, right? She fakes her like death, right? But
Yeah,
my
yeah.
thing is if they're collecting these dead Jedi and putting them in like stasis pods or whatever, how did they not get her and put her in the stasis pod? And
Yeah.
so that doesn't make sense. But I kind of might have figured it out because Vader also claims that he knows that Reva was one of the younglings,
Yeah. I think he
right?
also said that he never would have not suspected her, like he knew the whole time or some shit, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So they going back and forth. He says, "Why don't we just work together to take him down? We both want it to happen." And she gets mad because he didn't help to protect them, and she sticks her lightsaber through the door to get there to make her way inside. And
Which
this,
I don't know why she didn't do that from the get go.
me
Uh,
neither, dude.
Qui
Like,
Qui Gon Jinn also did something similar in Episode One,
yep, I
right?
remember.
So
It was the twisty move though. First he started and twisted, and then
well, he was
I
picking the
remember.
lock. He was picking the lock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. With the lightsaber.
Yeah, and then Reva just cut through the
Yep.
thing holding the door together, essentially.
Fucking welded it like a smarty. So then this fantastic gunfight happens. Well, laser
Wait,
fight.
okay, hold on. You cannot call that an amazing gunfight. That right there shows us the stormtroopers can't hit
Hit
shit.
shit.
They're
Yep.
right in front of them. Right in front of them. Bro, we're going back to my episode theory, bro. That glass, the glass in their damn helmets
It's
is too
tinted.
thick. It's too thick. It's tinted, but it's too thick of glass, so they can't see crap. Because they were right in front of them, and
And there was
maybe,
so many. So
bro,
many. It
maybe
was,
seven of the path members died. That was
yeah.
it. So
I was gonna go on to
I
say
don't know.
fantastic for the rebels.
Oh, okay. Jesus.
It's fantastic for the rebels because they were fighting the worst shots in all of the universe. And like just dude, like how did it take them bottlenecking to start hitting people? Like they had to bottleneck them to start getting shots on the gigantic loader bot that was there. It's like, dude,
Yeah,
I
that
couldn't
loader
have.
bot was a badass,
Yes,
bro.
he was. The unfortunately they aren't able to hold themselves strong where they are because despite their overwhelming inability to hit the rebels, they were still forcing their way in as they were shooting to push them back.
Because they had greater
Um,
numbers.
yeah. And so as they're making their way back towards the hangar, Tala gets hit mortally. She unfortunately was not going to make it, but she knew it. He told Ben to keep going, and he didn't have much of a choice, even though he was really being a badass with his lightsaber at that point, trying to get to her. Anyway, so he's doing his badassery with his defending himself, trying to make his way back to her. She says no. We get this really sad moment where the loader droid gets overwhelmed and is protecting her with his dying circuitry. And he collapses, but doesn't fall on top of her for some strange fucking reason. Um, and
Well, no,
then she,
he just powered down. Like he got into a pose to block the shots, and then
I figured he was like gonna just
powered
fall
down.
though.
No,
Yeah, maybe.
it was like he was like kneeling, so he was in a position where like
Oh,
he
yeah,
wouldn't have fallen over.
that's fair.
But I want
So
to point
she,
out though
go ahead.
that droid dies. It like you know what I mean, like sacrifices himself,
Yeah,
kind kind of like in Rogue One. You remember how they had that robot and he sacrificed himself and he like died, but he pushed the button and did something. I can't remember what he did,
I think so.
but he sacrifices himself.
I
It's
think
kind of
so.
reminiscent of that too.
Some selfless droids in this universe.
Apparently, droids are better people than I am.
That's right. So she busts out this grenade that doesn't seem to be inhibited at all by the giant robot in front of it. And as the storm door closes to protect the people inside the hangar, the entire cave basically gets blown through.
You want to know what's cool about that grenade?
What's that grenade?
This is my last Easter egg. It's the same. It's a thermo grenade, and it's the same grenade that Leia busted out in Jabba the Hutt's palace when she threatened to blow everybody up.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Dope,
So, yeah, yeah. That's all
dope,
I
dope.
got.
So the grenade blows up. A bunch of stormtroopers get blown to bits, and Riva is not hit by it, but you know everyone makes their way back to the ship. After Obi gets back to the hangar, he realizes that they can't win. So instead of fighting on and making more people die by their own hands, more likely than the stormtroopers, because clearly they can't hit shit, he surrenders himself to Riva, and he's sitting there like on his knees, and she's talking to him all whispery, and she more or less is convinced that they can work together to kill Vader. She tells the stormtroopers to bring him back in, and then they close the door, and of course he fucking kills all of them, or the two guys that were there.
Yeah, that's pretty stupid.
Like, why would you? You just sent them to death. But anyways, uh,
Oh,
Vader
but
shows up.
but it still doesn't make any sense, right? Because
Yeah,
that didn't slow down Vader from
not even a second.
right.
He
So I
just ripped
don't.
everything.
No. But what I mean is by that is, why did Obi-Wan like do all that shit, give up his lightsaber, go out, get captured, kill the guards, and go back in the room? Like that didn't slow anything down. Like what was the purpose of that?
I think his only goal there was to try to get a second shot at convincing Riva to be on to work with him, because that's obviously what he did try to do while he was sitting there. So I think he was doing a last second plea kind of thing. And it clearly worked because Vader lands.
But that was her plan from the get-go. So that's what I mean. That's why it doesn't make sense.
Maybe he convinced her to let them all live then. Obi-Wan breaks free of whatever his pretend soldiers are supposedly doing a good job of holding him as prisoner. And he gets back to the ship. Vader starts busting his way in. He gets to the ship as they're flying out of the hangar, and he just forces, and it is such an excellent display of his use of force. So as he's ripping apart the ship thinking he's going to get to the people inside, there's nobody there, and then somehow everyone, including us as the viewer, missed the whole other ship behind it that was sitting there apparently the whole time.
I watched that scene 3 times, and there was no second ship. I
I
don't
thought
give
not.
I don't give a fuck what anybody says. There was no second ship. So unless that ship had some cloaking,
They
when
had
it
to have.
when it's like when it's sitting stationary, because I don't know why I didn't fly away with the cloaking on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there was no second
He
ship.
fucking tried to get that ship. Why did he try to get that ship?
I don't know,
Yeah.
bro. But I have to
Um,
say though, do you know where else we've seen that? Like using the force to pull a plane down?
I know I've
In a
seen
ship?
it, but I can't remember from where. Was it the last trilogy?
Yes, it was
Okay.
Ray. Ray, and it's also in the video game. Like Star Killer does it
Hmm.
in the for
Interesting.
in the Force Awakens or what? I don't know. One
Hmm.
of those games with Star Killer.
Noise, noise.
Yeah, yeah.
So as he's staring off longingly into the ship that's flying away because he gave up like a fool, Riva thinks that it's a good idea to just try to sneak up behind him and just attack him with a lightsaber, which is going to make a fuck ton of noise anyways, on top of it being fucking Darth Vader. So he clearly knows she's coming, stops that whole thing. They have a really decent fight. Like he uses a lot of force and not a lot of lightsaber, but it's
Oh,
still pretty good.
fucking badass. He's just like puts his hand up, stops her, then he puts his hand down and pushes his hand up, and the force pushes her. It was like they were doing fucking kung fu with
Yeah,
like he was
it
doing
was
kung fu with the force. That was some cool ass shit.
yeah, that was I very much enjoyed that fight. Um, he tries to bust out the double lightsaber. He uses the force to stop that from spinning. Fucking rips those out of her hands, breaks them in half as two lightsabers. You
No,
know,
he doesn't break them in half.
no, he doesn't. Oh, what does he just
It's
pull them out?
it's show it like so this scene, which is really cool, is showing you all the different forms of their lightsabers. Like basically
Yeah,
everything their lightsabers can do. So they have the single blade, the
yeah,
double blade, the
yeah.
spinning blade, and the two separate blades. So like it detaches to give you
No,
two lightsabers. Yeah.
because one's not enough.
Yeah. Well, some people like
Um,
to dual wield, right?
yeah,
It looks like
unless
all
you're
the
Darth Maul.
Inquisitors Well, it looks like all the Inquisitors have standard lightsabers, so I mean, I'm sure they each have different lightsaber styles, so they use them in different ways.
That's fair. So Vader, after it's all said and done, stabs her, and you kind of get a scene of her getting stabbed there, and then it's like flashing back and forth between that scene and her apparently having been stabbed as a kid. I can't really tell because you don't get the actual perspective, but it looks like she was getting a stabbed.
Yeah, it seems like they were mirroring like when she was a kid getting
Yeah,
stabbed. So like he stabbed her then, and he's like, it's like it's basically like he said he remembers doing it and then stabs her again in the exact same way,
yeah.
which is stupid on Vader's part because clearly when you stabbed her like that, it didn't kill her the first time. So why would it work the second time?
Yeah,
Just stabbed
and who
her.
knows if it actually did.
No, it doesn't because she's gonna be in episode 3. She's gonna be going to
Episode
uh
6.
Tatooine.
Episode 6.
Yeah, in episode 6, she's definitely gonna be showing up to Tatooine looking for Luke.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, because as I was just about to say, after everyone's left and we get the Grand Inquisitor is still alive, as you very much so called recently in another episode that he was still going to be alive. Um, he's there and he kind of rubs it in her face and calls her a piece of shit in so many words. And they go away, and then you see the communicator with Bail Organa's message about Luke just off a little bit, and now she knows that Luke's on Tatooine. And that was the end of episode 5.
Dope.
Yeah, it was a fucking great episode.
I gotta say, fucking what's his name? Hayden Christensen. He's still got the moves, bruh. Like
Even if he's got them droopy cheeks.
that's fine. Like I mean, you gotta think about it though. Jedi gets stronger with age, right? So
Yeah, but Hayden Christensen.
he's a Jedi, motherfucker. Don't you dare disrespect him.
Um,
So okay, so what were some things you actually like really enjoyed about the episode?
man, there was some solid choreography. The whole every fight. Even though you know the stormtroopers suck at shooting, you know they suck at shooting on purpose. Every fight was choreographed really well. The defense of the rebels in that one particular scene when they were holding off against the stormtroopers was great. Obi Wan was great. You know what I mean? Like every fight in this episode, even if it was short, was really well choreographed. Even in the flashbacks when you had that back and forth with Obi Wan and Anakin, especially those fights, they were just so fluid. It brought me back to episode 2. Like immediately when I saw him with the rat tail again, I was like, "Holy shit, they're going for this!" You
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah. I forgot to mention that is probably one of Vader's like one of his most cherished memories. Like that was back like probably right when he got married. You know what I mean? Everything was good for him at
Yeah.
that point in time,
Yep.
right? So
Certainly was.
yeah,
Um.
no, I totally agree with everything you said. I would have
Yeah.
to say like it was a really good episode all around.
Yeah.
Seen a lot of people hating on it, but I'm one of the biggest haters. They call me the hater on stage. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, no, it was. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's just all the nostalgia for me, but I enjoyed this episode. So
Uh-huh.
for sure, for sure. All right, what What was one thing you disliked about the episode?
I know you know exactly what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna say it anyways. They should have fucking de-aged Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, hands down.
It it
I
was
I, I agree.
if they didn't if they had just given him 10 years and made him look closer to that, it wouldn't have taken me out so much. But seeing him right at like that first scene with him, I'm like, holy shit, you lazy fucks. You couldn't devote a couple grand to this? This is like key shit. And you're gonna just completely devoid of something. You're gonna pay Mark Hamill to show up on set and place his face 50 fucking years ago, but you're not gonna give us 10 years of Hayden Christensen de-aging? You lazy fucks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. No, that's probably my same dislike of the episode. So who's your favorite character of this episode?
Leia, a little hero.
Little
She
Leia, who had
yeah,
one fucking scene.
you know what? It's a redemption for her from all the running away she did from that fucking rooftop shit. She came up with this idea. She was like, I need a ladder. I'm going to go up in that shit and be the hero. 30 seconds, all she needed for me. There wasn't. I can say Tala because Tala was badass, but Tala's always been badass. I could say the loader droid because of how badass he was, but he's always been badass. Leia, 30 seconds it took her to redeem that fucking rooftop scene.
Okay, if you say so.
What about you?
Vader, hands down, bro. Vader. Dude, come on. Every
Yeah,
single time he's doing some cool shit. That's gonna be my answer. Hands down.
you're gonna Vader simp this entire time.
I will I will force choke the shit out of you. Um
Okay, Hajar, you can't do it over the internet.
so what about who is your least favorite character?
I actually couldn't think of anybody to put in this category this time around. No one pissed me off enough to say that I didn't like them.
Riva?
Eh, she made some
You
foolish
literally were
decisions.
just saying she's an idiot for
She
sparking
made
her
some foolish
lightning.
decisions, but crimes of passion. Do we hold all of what happened in Infinity War against Chris Pratt and Star Lord?
Yes, yes we do.
Eh, you're probably right. But no, I don't necessarily blame her. She was left for dead, and the person that did it's been there this whole time. She's kind of been at his feet. So stupid it may have been, but she had purpose behind it and she had hope behind it, which I respect.
No. No, I disagree with that. I totally disagree with that.
Are you gonna
Right?
say Reva's your disliked character?
Riva is my disliked character.
All right.
Yeah, because for one, if her head wasn't so far up her own ass, she could have teamed up with Obi Wan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the ego
But
got in the way for sure.
it's not just the ego though. It's the fact of she was like, "Well, where were you? Why weren't you there to save us? Like, why didn't you save him?" So she just didn't trust Obi. And then what happened? He abandoned her again, right? So now she's got even more hatred for the guy, right? Like, fuck off, Reva. If you didn't attack fucking Vader there, you could have fucking went on and then, maybe calmed down and then you know what I mean? Like,
That's fair. That's
so
fair.
yeah, Reva. But Hajar, he didn't do shit this episode. He didn't even say anything funny.
I forgot he was even there.
Exactly. So I could give it to either of them. So viewers choice.
Fair enough.
So what's your overall rating for the episode?
9.5.
9.5. I will second.
9.5.
I will second that, my good sir.
Woo! Finally.
What do you mean? I
This
gave
gives
the
me high
last one a
hopes.
9.5.
No, I mean I didn't though. I think I gave it like a 9.
Yeah. My ratings have always been higher than yours for this series.
Yeah, well that's because of your knowledge on the lore. But this gives me a lot of high hopes for episode 6.
Does not give me any high hopes for episode 6. I'm
Do you
like,
think they're gonna
fuck.
do the Disney thing and fucking fall flat on the landing?
Yep. I was like, go think about it, man. They have so much to fucking go over, and we have one episode left.
Yeah.
Like there's
If it's anything under an hour, it's gonna be
so
too much to be left on the floor, I think.
exactly, right? So you left me with the shit episode. I got the shit episode. So
Maybe, maybe. I'm gonna let you have a little bit of optimism, you pessimist.
I'm just worried. No, I'm just that's why I'm worried is because I don't see them being able to finish what they're trying to tell here in this last episode, right? So,
That's fair. That's I can't argue with your logic. But
yep.
I'm gonna remain a little bit optimistic because that's how I roll.
And
That's
by and,
how I
and
roll.
by okay, so by shitty episode, I mean it's gonna be the worst of the 6 episodes. Doesn't mean it's gonna be bad. That's I'm
Yeah.
just gonna
Well, I
I'm
mean,
just
how
gonna
you step
I'm
down
just
from your
gonna
lowest was a
point
8.
point that out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think we'll find too much of a
I just mean like I don't think I'm gonna get any cool fights. Maybe Riva versus Obi, but yeah, you know what I mean. I'm saying you got the better last episode. Yeah, the second last episode is always the better episode. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
we're gonna
Except for
cross our fingers and hope for better next week.
except for Mando because Luke showed up in that last episode.
Yeah, that last episode was fucking incredible.
But for the most part, the second last episode is the better episodes.
Yep. Boba Fett was the same way.
Yep. So
All right, Zach. We just went over Obi-Wan episode 5. Now we need to switch from Star Wars to Marvel. And by Marvel, I mean Ms. Marvel. So why don't you tell us about episode 1?
okay, so I want to start off by saying, as you heard, I attempted to say welcome in Hindi. I don't know if I pronounced it properly, but I'm pretty sure I did.
Everyone turned it off right at that moment. How dare he? Click.
But I attempted so. So Kamala Khan is the first Muslim comic character who has ever had her own comic book, right? And basically, the show starts off, we get a small introduction. She's 16 years old. She's a high schooler, obviously, and she makes YouTube videos. And we
Mhm.
actually hear her mention that her next video is going to be about how she thinks that Thor is a gamer, which is pretty funny
Because it's true.
because it is true. Yeah, right. He likes to play Fortnite. I think I beat his ass a couple times, and he threatened to come and smash me.
Listen here, new Master 69. I will find you. I will bring thunder down upon you.
Yes, and I am new Master 69. So essentially, Kamala Khan is, this 16-year-old high school fangirl. She loves her superheroes, right? And especially, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is her favorite character.
Her
So
idol.
essentially, yeah. So so after failing another driving test and meeting with the school counselor, Gabe Wilson, Kamala and her best friend Bruno finish off her Captain Marvel cosplay for Avengers Con. And you know what's funny is the or not the camp counselor, the guidance counselor at the school. She's like giving her this like whole spiel, like your head's not in it, and he literally starts quoting like Mulan. Like I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, I did. I did. Are you singing Mulan right now?
Yeah, so that was pretty funny. So she comes out of the guidance counselor's office, and we, meet a couple students here and there. We see, I guess, the popular girl. Her name's Zoe. She comments on Kamala's necklace, right? Which is her name in Hindi. And the cool thing about it is Kamala was named like so the word Kamal in Hindi means perfection, right? And in the comics, it's stated that they named her Kamala, right? For one, because she's a girl, I guess, so they, feminized it.
Memorized it.
But her parents didn't think that they were ever going to have another child. So they named her Kamala as perfection. So it's kind of a cool callback to the comics. I have to say, out of all the fucking shows, this one pulls so much, I swear, like lines straight out of the comic books.
Yeah, I think I heard people talking about that. Like this one's got a lot of scenes and words and like overall lines. So
Yeah,
yeah,
all in all, like the way that this show is produced, like it was actually really good. Like,
yeah,
like when the kids are text messaging with each other, right? The text messages are appearing in like, on the
yeah,
on the
and
on
the
the
neon signs and in the
the neon
street,
sign on the streets, in the graffiti. Like it was
the
it was
emojis were showing up. I love that.
it was really well done. But yeah, we'll get into that later.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? While while finishing up her cosplay, she has to hide it from her parents because her parents are like, super strict, right? Her parents don't really like the whole superhero thing,
mm,
right? But so then we see Kamala and she she gets this package, I guess, from her grandmother, right? Her mom tells her to put it in the attic, but she goes into it and we see the bangle, right?
yeah,
And this bangle in the comics, she has this bangle on, right? But I'll get into it more later. So her mom's like, "Yeah, don't touch that." Throws it back in the box, gets taken upstairs, put away,
yeah.
right?
Her mom really didn't like that box.
No, she called it junk and everything,
Yeah,
right?
even though there was like a nice outfit in there too. It looked like.
Yeah. So So, after failing to convince her parents to let her go to Avengers Con, so Kamala and Bruno, they sneak out and basically attend the what is it?
Avenger Con.
Avengers Con. So they go there anyways, right? She
Yeah,
sneaks out. I have to say about this scene, it was pretty cool. Like she like the whole like in her imagination, her like, working out the plan and stuff, her running and doing some
yeah.
cool flips out the window, and then
Over the
reality hit.
fucking bus thing.
Yeah, ride the bikes off the bridge onto the bus, and yeah, that shit was pretty cool. But then reality happens, and it's just
Not the
nowhere
same.
near. She jumps out the window, hits the tree branch, and just falls flat
Plummets.
on her back.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. She loses her bike, right? Which I thought was a nice touch because they go, "Do you think it'll still be here when we get
It's
back?"
Jersey. No.
Yeah, no, right? Which I don't think anywhere you go, you leave a bike like that at a bus stop, that is not staying there.
You leave a bike at a grocery store for 5 minutes, it's fucking gone when you come out.
Yeah, exactly, right? So,
Really quickly before you move on, there was one thing that happened that you didn't mention that definitely deserves to be mentioned, and that's after failing to convince her parents to let her go, they sometime later on that day come in and they're like, "You can go as long as you take your father, and he takes you, and you got to go dressed like this." And he's dressed in a very poorly made Hulk um outfit with like abs on his shirt, and he's all painted green, and her mom's handing her a little Hulk outfit like that's a fucking thing, and it was cute, but I can understand her being like, no, that's kind of embarrassing, which is what she said, and she said it in a hurtful way, but I
I was
understand what
like,
she's saying.
"Yo, beat that girl's ass, bro. That's so disrespectful."
Yeah, I just I respect the dad for trying, but maybe don't go all green next. Don't go green face.
You won't like him when he's angry.
Yeah, apparently. But
So,
yeah.
yeah. So they sneak off to Avenger Con anyways, and she ends up taking the bangle and making it part of her cosplay because they have to dress up as their favorite heroes but put their own personal spin on said costumes. So she
Hmm.
grabs the bangle to give it her own kind of flair, right?
Hmm.
So after getting there, dressing up, she puts on the bangle and then she goes and she gets up on stage. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs that I'll point out later on from this scene, right? But the one that I'll point out right now is, did you see where the con was being held?
Um, Not specifically.
So it was at Camp Lehigh, right? Which is now converted into a convention center.
Oh, that's the
But
place that they went to in Endgame, right?
no, yes,
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Tony and
no,
Cap.
no.
That's not where they went.
This is where Cap and Black Widow went, where they found Armin Zola.
Oh, that wasn't Endgame. That was
Oh yeah, not
Winter
Endgame.
Soldier. I
Yeah.
thought that was no. It was both because that was the same place that Cap and Tony went to get the
No.
Tesseract.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's also the camp where Captain America trained in the first Avenger.
Oh yeah.
Remember,
Wow, that's a very solid thread.
he goes up and he grabs the Camp Lehigh flag. Well, he doesn't go up. He knocks the thing
He
down
knocks
and
the thing
gets.
down.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one little Easter egg I'll point out right now.
It's a cool little
Um,
tie-in.
yeah. Like earlier, Bruno gave her these gloves, like some LED glowing gloves, right, to add to her costume, so it looks like she has powers and whatnot. But
Yep.
she ends up forgetting them in the bathroom when she's changing, right? So she goes and she puts the bangle on, and as she puts the bangle on, we kind of see it activate, and she starts to get this kind of it looks like a bubble barrier kind of going along her body, but it's just like her
Yeah.
powers activating, right? And so she gets up on stage. She's last one to make it up on stage, right? So she's up there showing off her costume, and she like sticks out her hand, and like these purple blasts like start coming out of her hands, right? And everybody's like, "Oh shit, that's cool." And then she kind of loses control and just starts shooting shit randomly all over the place,
Yep.
and she ends up hitting Thor's hammer, like a giant Thor's hammer, like Mjolnir, and
Hmm.
it comes down and smashes into Zoe, who is also dressed up as Captain Marvel.
Slutty Captain Marvel.
No, that's actually like looks a lot more like the original Miss Marvel costume.
Yeah.
Except the original one was black and yellow, but that's I think that's the callback to that. Her outfit was the original Miss Marvel costume. Yeah.
Okay.
Um. So yeah. So Zoe gets smacked by the hammer, taken up. She's falling, and when she's falling like this, I don't know if you caught this, but she did the Gwen Stacy MJ fall.
I did catch that.
They were doing like the slow motion. Yeah. And it's actually cool too because in the comics, Kamala actually saves Zoe in this same way.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool,
This
right?
person, the person that directed this, must have really, really loved Kamala's comics.
So yeah, so Kamala uses her powers to save Zoe, and Bruno rushes Kamala home where a pissed off mother is waiting for her.
I thought she was gonna get a whooping.
Yeah, right. So she basically gets grounded. Okay. So yeah, so she basically gets grounded, and then we get the credits. So there's a mid-credit scene, right? And it's of the DODC, which is the Department of Damage Control, which is fucking weird as shit because damage control just fixes shit. Like I've never known them to have government power, but that's the way the MCU works, right?
Yeah,
And so we see Agents Cleary and Agents Deaver,
yeah,
and they're watching a video of Kamala Khan using her powers, and they're basically like, "Oh, well, I guess it's time to head to Jersey." And so they head out to go try and find Miss Marvel.
yep,
Now, did you recognize the male agent?
yeah. He's the one from No Way Home that brought everybody in.
Yep. And so yeah, and then so yeah, that's episode 1, Miss Marvel.
Yes, sir. Um, Before we jump into the thoughts, I have a question. Do you see her powers as pretty similar to the Green Lantern's powers?
Um to a degree, yes. To a
It's
degree, yes.
almost bothering me.
It doesn't make sense, the fact that she's making,
Energy
like,
constructs,
well, there's that, but it's not really like she only makes platforms, right?
or it stretches her body out. Apparently,
Yeah, but see, so imagine if they used that and that was her embiggening powers, right? So like how it works like on her hands and when she makes the fist and stuff,
yeah,
right? If that's how her embiggening powers worked, I would be cool with that, right? Because she still it's essentially still the same ability. It just doesn't look the same as it does
It's
in the
not her skin
comics.
stretching, it's just the energy
Yeah,
stretch.
right. But you know what I mean? So I would be cool with that. I do not like the fact that she can essentially do whatever the fuck she wants, like she's a Green Lantern or
Yeah.
Star Sapphire, to be more specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't hate it, but I just think it's kind of weird. Like she should have just been able. She should have just like that. Her power set should just be like in beginning, but like
Yeah.
in this like kind of crystally purple form. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would have been totally cool with that, right? So like when she embiggens her fist, it could just be that big purple fist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would have been fine with me. But yeah, I'm not a fan of how she can just create random stuff.
Yeah. I figured you'd have that same thought about it as I did, because it again, I get this wicked Green Lantern vibe out of it, but I'm hoping that with growth and responsible learning, she'll actually figure it out and maybe just stick to embiggening or
I would
something
say
similar.
it's more in tune to the Indigo tribe, but yeah, you can keep calling it a Green Lantern if you want.
Conceptually, for the sake of the casual who only knows the Green Lantern and not the other 6 or 5 rings that there are. What were your overall thoughts on this episode?
My overall thoughts, it wasn't bad. Like there was an abundance of like Easter eggs. Overall, I didn't think it was bad. One cool thing, yeah. So one cool thing I found that could be possible is the bangle could be another like cosmic relic, kind of like the Ten
The Ten
Rings,
Rings.
right? I don't know, like it's actually cool because like yeah, like as we'll get into it, right? We find out her powers actually do come from inside of her, right?
Yep, which I had
Um,
called before, I think,
yeah.
before the second episode came
So
out.
it's kind of like the bangle just activated it, and in a sense, it kind of seems like it's activating her, Kree DNA, kind of like what the Terrigen Mist would have done,
Yeah,
right? So maybe that's how Marvel can explain like the activation of, the special abilities in the Inhumans, right? And you know what I mean? Like let's say there's something in the bracelet, right? And so it's not the bracelet or the bangle per se, right? But
mhm.
it's like, you know what I mean? Like either one of those jewels. And so instead of creating the Terrigen Mist, these jewels can activate the Kree cells in their bodies, right? That could be the way that they can explain this and it make a little bit more like that way they can bring the Inhumans back in.
They
Um,
deserve a better shot than they had.
yeah, right. And Kamala is, I think, the most popular one next
100%. 100%.
next to Black Bolt, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, especially now.
Yeah, right. So like that's pretty cool. Um, a couple other cool Easter eggs from like when they were in the con where we get to like she's wearing a replica like bomber jacket that's like a replica of Carol Danvers,
From the
like
90s, yep.
yeah, her jacket.
Yep.
And another cool thing was there was actually a painting, and you see it, and it's a painting of Black Widow and Iron Man, and it actually said like "Rest in peace" to the two of them, which is really cool actually because Black Widow never got a sending off. Like she got
No, she didn't.
that small little one at the end of Black Widow, right? But she never got that, funeral. Like so it was actually quite a nice touch to, you know what I mean, finally show that, respect to Black Widow who essentially saved the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting introduction to the character for someone as not comic oriented as I am. Like, obviously, I love the movies, I love the shows as visual media is given. It's not that I don't want to read the comics. I just can't focus on them. I get lost in the whole word, and I'll be reading a paragraph for 20 minutes. But so, what's something you disliked about this episode?
Um, I guess we kind of touched on it a little bit. It's just the difference in her power. I don't understand why they gave her the powers they gave her.
Yeah.
Just
I think the only thing they were thinking is they didn't want to put someone stretchy on screen that wasn't Reed Richards first.
that's but I think that's
It's
just such a
stupid.
stupid reason.
It's
Like,
stupid, I agree. Or maybe they're trying to omit the Inhumans.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's still kind of just
It's choppy.
yeah. What was something you didn't like?
Um, I kind of it's along the same lines. I kind of wish they kept her as an Inhuman because then we'd have the proof that they exist. We'd have the Inhumans being able to get their chance to shine.
Well, going off of my theory, that could still be possible, right?
Yeah, yeah,
The real issue is the way her powers work. That's
yeah.
what it is, right? Like we could still have that, especially if especially if the power is coming from within her, right? That triggered some sort of mutation in her, right? That bracelet.
Mutation.
So yeah, so yeah, basically, yeah, like I'm saying, like so yeah, so something changed her cells, you know what I mean, or activated the cells in her body. So that could legitimately be like my theory. And I think that theory would actually be that'd be a decent way to bring in, I would say, bring in the Inhumans, but also to kind of answer the question of what is this power? Like what how does this bracelet activate it? Why? Like why Kamala and not like you know what I mean? Like Bruno. If Bruno put the bracelet on, it wouldn't have gave him superpowers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think
That's
that
fair.
yeah.
All right. So, who was your favorite character?
Um well, out of the three characters that we got, I mean, we don't really have much choice, but I have to say the dad. The dad came in. Oh yeah, and I forgot to point out a really cool thing about the dad is he's a famous like act
Muslim actor.
yeah, right? Like Southern Asian actor. And he actually does the Hindi voice of Doctor Strange.
That's dope as shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dope as shit.
Yeah. Um but yeah, I'd have to say the dad, right? Like he was there, he was really supportive of her and you know what I mean? Like he was a really cool dad, especially like when you know what I mean, like the few like Muslims that I know or like when you hear stories it's the dad's always like super strict, you know what I
Hmm.
mean, and
He definitely
everything's
seems laid back.
yeah, so I thought he was pretty cool. So I mean Kamala was dope, you know what I mean, but like I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna say the dad. And then like when he came in and he got devastated, like as a father, I
Felt
felt
for him.
that. I
I
felt it.
felt for him.
So yeah, I'd have to say my favorite character probably was the dad. Like we came in as the Hulk and stuff. Like, yeah, definitely the dad.
He was ready. He was ready.
He was great. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll give it to the dad. What about you?
I actually really liked Bruno. I thought that his all his techie stuff and his willingness to be so helpful with Kamala. I think that he's clearly simping for her, but it's fine because it's kind of cute. He's not overdoing it for the sake of overdoing it, but he's looking out for her. He's got her back, and I kind of really dig that about him because he doesn't seem to treat her kind of in any way differently, really. Like, the whole perspective is, remember the whole line, brown girls from Jersey don't usually save the world, and he says, well, why don't you? You can. You're a superhero, Kamala. Like he's kind of her backbone in a way.
Well, I mean that's in the second episode. He didn't
Oh,
say
was
that.
it?
Yeah, because he
Well, no,
doesn't
he
know.
says it. Doesn't he say it in the trailer too? I think.
Regardless if he says it in the trailer, it's still like
Well, either
it's
way.
still in this episode that doesn't happen, so he's not that supportive right now.
Well, no,
Um,
but he did the gloves. He made the gloves
yeah, he
for.
did no, but he did say some cool stuff. I mean, I'll give him
Yeah,
that.
he's
It was
definitely had her back this entire time. Clearly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, Bruno's a good guy.
Yeah, I like Bruno. I hope to see him grow some.
But
Just
shh,
stick around. So, who is your least favorite character? I have a feeling I know who you're going to say. If I'm wrong, I'll be surprised.
let's hear it.
Are you going to say Zoe?
Oh, fuck Zoe, but no.
That's exactly my. Anyways, who were you gonna say?
The mom.
The mom.
Yeah.
She's a little bit hardo, huh?
She was a jerk, dude. She was a jerk. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
I could see that. Yeah.
but I mean, I get it at the same time, but that doesn't mean I have to enjoy it.
Yeah, no,
So, yeah, the mom.
yeah.
What about
Obviously, you know now. My choice was Zoe.
she was so like, you know what I mean? She just was playing the damsel in distress. I would say probably for the next episode, I would say she's probably my least favorite character, but you know, we'll get into that in
Yes,
a
we
bit.
will. In a bit. What would you rate this episode?
It wasn't bad. Like it really wasn't bad. So, I don't know. I would probably give it like I'll give it an 8 for starters. Like it's not terrible. Well, I mean, no, that I shouldn't say that. It's good. It's good. So, yeah, I give it an 8.
Okay.
What about you?
Only because I'm a little behind in the lore, I'm gonna go a little lower than you on the 7.5.
Okay. I have to say though too, like I know, you know what I mean, a couple like, cultural backgrounds and stuff and like, you know what I mean, some of that stuff, but like this like all this like Hindi and Muslim stuff, like I am so out like so it is actually pretty interesting, you know what I mean? We get to see a bit more of the culture and everything,
Yeah,
right?
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah. So it was good. It was good.
Dope.
All right. So John, tell us about episode 2.
Ms. Marvel episode 2 was titled Crushed. So we get Kamala training with Bruno, trying to figure out her powers. Bruno has figured out with his somehow significantly advanced technology brain kind of thing going on that that she has powers inside of her and not in the band, which I hope they delve more into because it's kind of cool. But I'm sure we're gonna get more about it. But for now, it's kind of obscure. Kamala, Bruno, and Nakia end up going to a party that Zoe sets up where they end up meeting this new senior Kamran. um, he's kind of showing off, and Kamala's smitten by him, super crushing. And as they're getting to know each other, the cops show up, so they end up having to leave, obviously. And Kamran suddenly offers all of them, at least the three of them, a ride out of there. Um,
Well, he says he has a car so they can get out of there.
it just, with as strict as her mom is, it seems like she would think twice about doing something like that, but then again, she seems a little bit rebellious right now, so it's kind of on brand. Kamala is just like into him, and she ends up choosing to go do driving with him instead of training with Bruno the next day. But before she leaves, she invites him to Eid, which is a.
The 3-day festival, the end of Ramadan.
Bruno's frustrated, but he lets her. Kamran lets her drive. They end up going to a restaurant. So they're at the restaurant. They're sitting there talking, and she sees her brother and his fiance walking by, so she tries to hide, but her brother notices them. So they come in. She introduces Kamran as their cousin from marriage from Pakistan. It's a situation I can't really. It was kind of a, you know, I can't really explain it. But she tried to explain it off, and he pretended like he must have recognized him or something because he was like, "Oh yeah, we used to call you Kamaran.com." It was kind of funny. So that happens. They get away with their situation,
I have a
and
I have a question.
what's up?
So you're a Marvel fan, correct?
Marvel television and film media, yes.
Okay, because I was gonna say who is Kamran in the comics?
I was listening to someone else talk about him. I can't remember the exact name, but they said his ability where it was to something like take the spirit or like ancestral form of people and get their power or their knowledge or something like that. I was listening to a lot of different podcasts today, so I know I picked up on it somewhere, but I don't remember the full details on it.
Yeah, no, that's completely wrong.
No, then.
Well, for one, he's a close in the comics. He's a close family friend,
Mm,
and he's an Inhuman. and he comes to recruit Kamala to join an evil inhuman, like this street guy who has the powers that you were talking about.
Oh,
So
that's probably where I
Kamran's
got it.
Kamran's powers is he takes like this blue energy form, like his body turns to like this blue energy.
So after their time together, Kamran drops her off at home, and she's like on cloud nine. She walks in the door, and there's this like whole scene of her doing this dance, and it's very teenager. So later on, we get a scene of her band activating after she's at school and her powers are acting up, and it's like a figure, a person is like shining through in light, and then we don't get any clarification who she is. She goes to ask her grandmother about her great grandmother on a video chat, and her father almost catches her. She uses her powers to stop him from coming in, because apparently she's not supposed to be talking about it. But they both, everyone that she's tried to speak to about it has said they don't want to talk about it. They just kind of brush her off. We find out that her great grandmother was part of the partition of India, and lost her grandfather, sorry, her father, but somehow managed to find her using a trail of was it Trail of Stars or Trail of Tears, Trail of Lights. It was something like that. I can't remember exactly what the words were, but it was a trail of something. So then we get to the damage control. They're talking to Zoe about her savior at the Avengers Con, and she kind of gives it away when they're naming off ethnicities. And once they figure out that uh, the person who was her savior was of South Asian descent, I believe they actually used Muslim. They started looking for people in that specific community. Um, while everyone's at the Eid ceremony later on, there's a boy that was up on one of the towers, and he ends up slipping and falling out of the window in there, and he's hanging on. And Kamala sees him, so she slips away from Bruno and Nakia, gets dressed up in her garb, and she climbs up and she does this really cool trick with, well, not trick, but she really, like, she uses her powers really well. In a moment of crisis, she starts jumping on him really fast. Pretty cool. She saves the boy. She gets distracted and accidentally drops him a little bit. Is able to catch him before he hits the ground, but he, I guess, hurt his ankle. He said my ankle after she dropped him. And then damage control shows up, and she gets chased off. She runs over and gets past them, and then Kamran shows up out of nowhere, rescues her, knows who she is, and then says, "Hi, I want you to meet my mother. She's been looking forward to meeting you for a long time." And we get the end of the episode.
So clearly you didn't notice the woman in the back seat of that car is the woman that shows up in all those like flashes that she has.
Thought so, but it seemed a little different. I thought that was like another relative of hers. I didn't think it was her
Yeah,
specifically.
that's her great grandmother, meaning
It
that
is.
Cameron is her great uncle. Okay, so what were some things you really enjoyed about the episode?
Kind of like that she was able to get her powers incorrect and then better over time. I thought it was really cool that she was given the brief little montage of struggle, growth, but still struggling. Um, her powers at the end of the episode being kind of like almost unpredictable, where she dropped the kid accidentally because she wasn't paying attention. It gives the depth of still being new. So I like that they're not kind of forcing her
What are you
into
talking
being.
about? She didn't drop the kid because she stopped paying attention. She
No, she
dropped the
got
she dropped
distracted.
she dropped the kid because one of those flashes happened.
Yeah,
That's
well,
not her. That's not her fault. You can't
no,
say
no, I'm
that
not
makes
saying it's
her.
her
That makes
fault.
her. Yeah, but yes, you are though. You're saying that she's being a crappy hero because she wasn't paying it because she
Yeah, I
wasn't
guess
paying attention. You literally said she wasn't paying attention and
yeah,
dropped
I
the
didn't,
kid.
I didn't, I didn't think of it that way. Well, either way, I'll go back and just say I like the way that in this episode her powers progressed at a in a way that it wouldn't be too much. It didn't seem like she just suddenly got it, which is good. I like that there's going to be more development. I like that it's going to have time behind it. They're not rushing, it seems.
That's because they have no basis for it. It's something that
Yeah,
they just pulled out of their ass and made and decided to, oh yeah, here's her new powers. So they have no
yeah,
backing. They don't know how to make it, how what makes it work.
yeah. I guess it's fair. I mean, they rushed Moon Knight in the way that they're not doing this, so that's what I mean. Is they're not going too fast with it. What about you? What was some stuff you liked about it?
I enjoyed how like true they kind of stuck to like some of the like the culture and everything, like the mosque, they were all separated, right? Even everything that like the lead like the head guy at the mosque said was straight out of the comic books. Yeah, I don't know. The writing is actually fairly decent. So, yeah, that's probably the stuff I enjoy.
Oh, comic accuracy is always good.
What was something you disliked from the episode?
I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for this because everyone else I've heard talk about it has loved it, but I got so taken out by the dance. It just pulled me completely out and away. I didn't enjoy it. What was your dislikes?
My dislike is how useless damage control is. Who's your favorite character of the episode?
I really liked Kamala this episode, despite my dislike for the dance scene. She was really, really good with her training, with her actual acting. I really enjoyed this episode too. Like you could tell at least you could feel how much she actually showed the interest in Kamran when she first saw him. Like all the facial expressions, all the way she handled everything with that. Like she clearly at least seemed perturbed. You know what I mean? So yeah, Kamala was really, really good this episode. What about you?
I mean, not much happened in this episode. Um, so yeah, I don't know. There like it really is you can only really pick Kamala. Like nobody really did anything else. So yeah, Kamala. What about least favorite?
I almost want to say her family for trying to prevent her from learning the past, but I feel like there's more to that than just them trying to prevent her from knowing it. So I'm gonna say I don't really know. I really don't know. I was gonna say the dickhead guy from Damage Control, but he's doing his job, so I can't really say I disliked him for it. What about that kid for being stupid enough to fucking hang out of a window for a selfie?
That's your choice.
I guess so. I don't really, as you said, there wasn't a lot that happened, so it's hard for me to say something was really ultimately bad. But I can say that that kid shouldn't have been hanging out a window for a picture. What about you?
I have to say the whole like Kamran thing, like if that is her uncle, that's pretty fucked up. So
Does he let her on?
I'd probably have to say I don't like Kamran.
Yeah, he was kind of creeping on it with it.
What's your overall rating of the episode?
I gave this one a 7. What about you?
Yeah, I'd probably give it like a 6.5, 7, about the same.
Okay.
I think we said not much happens, so
Yeah, it has some stuff, but it doesn't have a lot of substance for an overall story. Like we still haven't gotten anything about the villain yet, which is kind of strange for episode 2 of what, 6. There'll be more Ms. Marvel next week. We have to cover now episode 5 of The Boys.
yep.
So why don't you lay us in that one on Samad, Zach?
All right, so in the last episode, Kimiko got blasted through the wall, right? So Frenchie goes and takes Kimiko to a hospital where she is overjoyed to learn that she lost her power. So whatever Soldier Boy has in his chest, that chest beam takes away the superpowers, I guess, right? So yeah, so her and Frenchie, they get a little closer, they kiss, and Frenchie's like leaves the room, goes to the vending machine, and then he's actually just grabbed by Nina and telling him that he has to do another job for her. Huey then reveals to Annie Starlight that he used the temporary the V24. She's not happy with it. Then we see Butcher. He gets some more V24 from Maeve, and they actually end up hooking up, right? Yeah, so like they end up like drinking together, and then they end up, hooking up. And Homelander and Noir, they find out about this and they actually like kidnap Maeve. So we're not too sure what's going on with Maeve. So following Edgar's departure, Ashley, the annoying like secretary lady, assistant, I don't know what her role was. She's now become the president of VOT, but she's basically just a bootlicker. Yeah, like, you know, she'll do whatever Homelander wants, right? So she got
Another what's his name? The Deep.
kind of, but she's just a normal person that runs the company. So she's yeah, so she's now like the CEO. Then we get A Train. We get a scene with like A Train. He's back like at his brother's place. They're kind of reconnecting because they had a falling out in previous seasons, like him and his brother. And he's like, "Yeah, I want to do this for the community." And he's got this new super suit which has like African flags, like or like African kind of like tribal print on them and stuff.
Hmm.
So and like everybody's like, "Yeah, that shit's lame." And they're like, "If you really want to do something about it, why don't you stop this asshole Blue Hawk?" So like Blue Hawk is essentially just another superhero, and he literally like beat the shit out of some kid that was on the way home. He's like, "Yeah." And so he's basically just patrolling the like black neighborhoods. So he's basically just a racist piece of shit using his powers to his advantage.
Does he have any relation to like the Nazis from that other season or that other
No.
episode?
No, he looks like he's Latin of some sort. So,
Oh, oh, geez.
so yeah, so A Train demands Blue Hawk like kind of has to go and like make a public apology, right? But instead of, giving out this apology, he just like says fuck you and he starts attacking people and A Train's brother actually ends up like breaking his spine. So he's basically his brother's not going to be able to like walk anymore. And then A Train is a little bitch. He didn't do anything about it. Nothing. So his brother's now like hospitalized and some other people got thrown across the room and whatnot.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, so upon returning to America, Soldier Boy sees this like Russian business and he kind of just, charges up his chest beam and fucking just blows it up. Um I guess, since he's been captured by the Russians for so long, he just it's like, yeah, no, I kill all Russians, which at this point in time I don't really have a problem with that. So this alerts the boys. Huey, and Butcher go and visit the Legend, who's a character from the comics. He's the one who used to give Butcher all the information in the comics. So, and in this one, he's I don't know, I can't remember in the comics if he's a former employer of Vought, but this guy in the series, he used to work for Vought. So he reveals that Soldier Boy came and seen him, and he's looking for his girlfriend, right? So the boys know where like the Countess is, so they head off, and this scene's actually pretty funny because it's called like soup porn, like live or something. So basically,
What?
she's doing like webcam, like the webcam stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Cam model fit.
Yeah. So the funniest part about this is, who's on the camera, like talking to her, like in the private chat?
Who?
Fucking Seth Rogen. It's hilarious.
You gotta be shitting me.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Right. So
Hmm.
she goes and she heats up her little like giant fucking anal beads. Like these things are huge. So she goes and like
Jesus.
heats them up and like she's, doing whatever. Like she's not using them yet, right? And then all of a sudden you just see fucking Butcher just come flying into the room, just tackle her, right? So like they all tie her up. MM's like, "All right, so what's the plan?" And like I said, MM has an issue with Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy killed his family. So Butcher ends up drugging MM, right? Because essentially they need Soldier Boy to be the guy to kill Homelander, right? Like if
Yeah.
he does what they think he does, if he does take powers away, and he's basically as strong as Homelander. Like we've seen a flashback with him being tortured by the Russians,
Yeah.
and they're like fucking shooting AK-47s down his throat, poisoning him, doing all kind, burning him, trying to figure out how to kill him, and I guess they couldn't, right?
Hmm.
So so basically that's why Butcher, he roofies MM. Starlight shows up and Huey goes off and he kind of is distracting her because she's not supposed to be there. Soldier Boy shows up. Butcher goes in and says, "Hey, I have the Countess in there tied up. She's all yours, but we should form a team and take down this Homelander prick." Right? So then we see Soldier Boy go into the trailer and he goes, "So how much did they pay you?" And the Countess is like, "Nothing," right? And he's like, "I loved you. After all of this, I thought you were gonna come and save me." And she's like, "Yeah, I never loved you." And so he fucking blows up the trailer, like just fucking decimates it. Like Huey and Starlight are far away and it fucking blows up in the distance. So then they fucking run back and Starlight sees Soldier Boy and she like lights up her eyes like she's ready to fight. And this is where we see Huey steps in front and he's like, "No, we need him." And she's like, "I thought you said no more lies, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, well, you weren't supposed to be here," right? That's what Huey kept saying. So then they have a little back and forth. Huey ends up walking away from her and then going off with Billy and Soldier Boy, and that's the end of the episode.
Sounds like a little bit of a cliffhanger.
They just gotta wait till next Friday.
Yeah. It's kind of see. I like that old. I call it old. That former style of television where they make it episodic. That's one of the things that kind of sucks about the streaming services that drop the episodes all at once. You don't get that benefit of having to wait in the moment and really feel the effects of what happened. You can kind of just resolve it with the next episode.
So basically, you're saying Netflix because they're pretty much the only ones that do that.
Yeah, yeah. It's a bit of a drag.
I don't understand though. Like it's your choice to binge it. If you want to watch one episode, then only watch one episode. You
No,
can't
I know,
you
and
can't you
I
can't
can't.
blame companies for that
I'm not
because
blaming anybody. I'm not saying it's.
because people can't control themselves.
Yes, I blame people.
That's their own problem.
Willpower.
It makes more sense because the longer the show takes, if they drop 10 episodes of the show. They drop it all in the first day. I could take 2 weeks and watch it all. But if I have to watch the show for 10 weeks, I might give up on the show fucking 6 weeks in. It's just because it's taking too long, right? It really depends.
I gotcha.
But Netflix does release weekly shows as well.
I wonder what the inspiration for it all is.
So, and then another thing. So you're telling me you would be waiting for one episode a week of Stranger Things after waiting 3 years for them to drop this season? You would want to wait
I
7
see your
weeks.
argument there. I see your argument there. That's a good point. That's a good point.
So,
Oh, all right. Well, sorry about that loud for a second there. Why don't you tell me your overall thoughts of the episode?
not too much happened in the episode, but I enjoyed it. Like they're getting to it and Soldier Boy is just so much better than he was in the comics. Like Soldier Boy, like this Soldier Boy is more so like Captain America, except this guy would probably beat the shit out of Captain America. Not gonna lie.
Oh,
Um Even like without the chest blast and everything. Like even if he didn't have the chest blast, he would destroy a lot of the Marvel superheroes. Um
now, do you think that's because not the feeling of how he'd kicked Captain America's ass, but do you think he's a more he's better than in the comics because of Jensen Ackles?
no,
No.
he's completely not the same character that's in the comic books.
Okay. I know a lot of times actors can do things and it makes it like
Well, in the
different.
comic books, the Soldier Boy title is they try and make it seem like he's this immortal, like guy that's been around since the World War One, but it's literally just been a title that's been passed down in the
Oh,
comics,
legacy.
and he pisses himself, I think, 2 or 3 times in the comics. So that's what I'm saying. This Soldier Boy is nothing like the comics.
That's a complete departure then. All right, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so what about something you disliked?
Well, I didn't mention it, but they did have a little like musical number in the beginning of the episode with Kimiko. But yeah, no, Not really. They kind of. I guess I would probably say like the back and forth between like Starlight. You know what I mean? Like she's going off doing whatever the fuck she wants, but then she has the fucking gall to get mad at Huey for, wanting to not feel useless. Like, yeah, so probably
Full
Starlight.
standards, no.
Yeah. So I'd probably say like that back and forth.
Who was your favorite character this episode?
I mean, for this particular episode, again, nobody really did anything too crazy, but probably Butcher. Like Butcher's always probably going to be on at the top of each episode. Like he's just such a dick. And then he fucking tackles that chick right before she's about to get good with the anal beads. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was pretty funny. So
That's Carl Urban, right?
yeah,
I've always found him to be very, very fun, so I'm sure I'll very much like his character when I start getting into the show. What about your least favorite character this episode?
probably Starlight again. The double standards. She just nags on Huey. Like Huey's supposed to be the naggy one. So yeah, Starlight.
And what would you give this episode for a rating?
I really enjoyed this one, so I'd probably give it like an 8. It was a good episode.
The
Yeah.
high one. I think that was. Did you give last week's an 8.5?
I don't remember.
This has been a ride.
Yep.
Um,
But yeah, so don't forget to check out the other podcast on our network, Geek Talk Network, What in the Anime with Tyler and Dustin. So yeah, check them out wherever podcasts are found.
they come out every Tuesday. Zach, it's been real.
It had, John.
Deuces.
Thank you all so much for listening to Movie Night with the Boys.